As per the title, I am torn as to which of the two devices should be my daily driver because they are both really good. By the end of this video, I will make a decision as to which will be my daily driver. So let's see why I am torn, and I will see you at the end of this video. Ladies and gentlemen, on my right I've got the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3 and on my left I've got the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. And before I go into the reasons why either of these two devices should be my main daily driver, let me just give you some context. So, with the Note 20 Ultra, I purchased this about 18 months ago. It's been a fantastic servant, never let me down. Obviously, lots of key features. The S Pen, love that mystic bronze color on the back, and love that camera bump. And also you have space for expandable storage. Then on my right, I purchased the Fold 3 quite a few weeks ago now. And the main reason for purchasing this device is for this inner screen, because I do perform a lot of, I shoot videos, I edit them, and then I upload them to social media channels like YouTube, Instagram, etc. And I love the ability to be able to do everything on the go. So I was doing that before on the Note 20 Ultra, but obviously with this larger canvas, it was the selling point. What I should also mention is that both these devices, they're both 512 gigabytes. And I purchased them both from Amazon using the Amazon Renewed program, and I've got videos on both of these if you want to have a look at them. What I should say is that this one was bought using the Amazon Renewed program in the UK, and this one was bought using the Amazon Renewed program in America. If you're thinking of purchasing the Samsung Galaxy Fold 3, one thing you'll definitely need to consider is the weight, because unlike the Note 20 Ultra, which weighs about 208 grams, and then the S22 Ultra is about 228 grams, this is 271 grams, and even for the Fold 4, that is about 263 grams. So you really need to consider the weight, because I have to confess, if I have this in any of my it's okay if I've got pants or trousers on, because I can just put a belt on it. But if you've got like, if you've got some track bottoms or some gym wear, this is not going to be ideal whatsoever. It is not going to be ideal. It's going to weigh you down like a sack of potatoes. That is guaranteed. So for that reason, yeah, more marks has to lean towards the Note 20 Ultra, because again, the weight, I've tried it, and I've tried to again challenge myself, remain positive, but the weight is, yeah, you really have to consider it. And also when you add the case on as well, it makes it bulky and adds to the weight itself. And you know, sometimes I can understand why some people do not want to rock this with a case, because it does make it quite bulky indeed. Yeah, I have to admit. So that's something you will need to factor into deciding whether to purchase the Fold 3 for sure. But nevertheless, it is a lovely device. The other thing to consider, and the one that has been plaguing my mind, is obviously the outer screen. As you can see with the Note 20 Ultra, look at that, slim, it's uniform, and also it is aesthetically pleasing to look at. But with the Fold 3, you go from this large 7.6-inch screen, and then you go to this very narrow, I'll just put my sword in, you go into this very skinny, narrow but tall device, and it just doesn't feel right. I've tried. The more I go from the inside to the outside and vice versa, always coming back to this very narrow outer screen. It doesn't do it for me. So again, top marks goes to the Note 20 Ultra. What Samsung need to do, if they're listening, I'm sure they should have apart from research and development department, they don't even need that department. All they need is a social media department that look at all these videos, and then surely there'll be a common theme. Even with the Fold 4, from 1 to the 4, even though they've increased the screen size by narrowing the bezels and increasing it by 3mm, it is still too narrow. It's way too narrow. The ideal foldable needs to be very much like the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, which looks very much like this when it's folded, and that's how it should be. It should be uniform. When you look at something, I studied marketing. It should have an aesthetic, a pleasing look about it. Look at that. Again, if you buy just for example a sports car, say a Porsche, you look at it all round, it just looks beautiful all round. But with this, it looks out of sync. I've tried, my eyes, the way they go from the outside to this narrow outer screen, it just doesn't look nice at all. As I said, you've got Xiaomi with their Mix Fold 2, you've got Vivo X, I think it's Vivo X Plus Folds, something like that. You look at those, they look really neat when folded, and that's how it should be. So I think for the 4th generation Samsung, again, if you're watching, you're listening, you need to widen this. And when I say widen it doesn't even have to be as wide as it, but it certainly needs to be wider. Surely needs to be wider. Say wider, bring it out to there, because when you're looking at it, it needs to be uniform. So if I went from here, if I open that out and I go back in, that's fantastic. That's how it should be. And also, there are times you're in public, and I can tell you from using this device, I don't want to open it out for the rest of the world to know I've got an expensive device. I want to be able to still just be very discreet. So let's say, for example, this was a foldable. I don't need to open it, just do everything I need to do on the outside here. And say, for example, when I get home or somewhere more discreet and I'm more comfortable, I'll open the device out. But this, it is grating on me. But again, this is just my view. You may look at this and say it's not an issue, but when you're spending a lot of money on a device, like as I mentioned, with the competitors, Xiaomi, Vivo, Honor, I'm pretty sure if those 3, and then you have the Oppo, if those 3 or 4 companies there are no barriers to entry, and they could enter the US market, the European market, Asian markets, and other Asian markets, I'm pretty sure Samsung would not stick with this narrow aspect ratio, not for 4 generations. So for the 5th generation, it needs to be wider, because as I said, it needs to be aesthetically pleasing. You look at it and it should look beautiful. But you look at this, I'm not sold on it. And again, just to show you that my ideas are not far-fetched, I have right here, this is the Microsoft Surface Duo. Look at that. Just look at this. Look at that. It makes it a pleasure to work on. Let's just put that onto one screen. Look at that. That, you know, Microsoft, look at that. That is perfect. Fantastic. So it just demonstrates what I've been talking about for the last few minutes. The front screen should be, it does not need to be as wide as this. If it's 2/3 of this, oh, fantastic, then it will be perfect. But this, it's not very good. It definitely needs to be improved for the fifth iteration at least, because if Samsung have tried it on the fourth iteration, and you'll see some of the common, what's a common denominator that people mention about the Fold 4, it's still too narrow. What I love about both of these devices is that they both have S Pen support. So for example, with the Note 20 Ultra, or if you've got the S22 Ultra, Note 10 Plus and other earlier ones, the S Pen is always stored within the body of the device. So this one is stored just to the left there in that chamber. And again, the S Pen is for me, it is fantastic because it performs a wide range of functions. For example, you can use it to increase or decrease the volume. You can use it to skip videos, take videos, photos, perform air commands, and when the device is switched off, say you're out and about, you see something, quickly take the pen out of the chamber, make a note of it, hit save, insert the pen back in, and then you're on your merry way. So again, that is brilliant. And again, the key selling point for me is I can use the S Pen to edit my videos. And also the other thing you can do with the S Pen is sign PDF documents, which is, again, 10 out of 10. That's the best way to describe that. And then if we move over to the Fold 3 here, you can perform pretty much the same functions, but there are a few caveats. Obviously, the first thing to note is that with the Fold 3, even with the Fold 4, you cannot write on the outer screen, which for me, that to me doesn't, it just doesn't quite add up. It just seems bizarre that you cannot write on the outer screen. And the other reason why I think it's really important to be able to write on the outer screen is that because for example, if you have a case like I have here, certain functions are difficult to perform, especially when they're on the edges, and that's where you need the pen for pinpoint accuracy. So that's something that needs to be improved, definitely for at least for the fifth iteration of this device. You need to be able to write on the outer screen. And the other reason why you need to be able to write on the outer screen is that, so say for example, as I mentioned, I'm out and about, I want to take a quick note. Well, first of all, the pen is not in the device. Yes, you can have an attachment, have it say, take the pen out. Now, then what will happen is then I'll need to open it. And again, I'm talking practicalities here. There are times you do not want to just do all of that, open it out on the big device, on the big inner screen. No, discretion is the name of the game. So you want to be able to take the pen out, right on the screen, and then at least hit save and be done. So again, Samsung, this is definitely an area that needs improvement. And for a device that is costing what, $2,000, almost $2,000 new, I'm sorry, but it should have everything apart from gold dripping from it. Seriously. So that's something that's an area that definitely needs to be improved. The other caveat with this Fold 3 is that you will need an S Pen, and there are two types. And by the way, after spending almost $2,000 for this, you still need to pay separately for the S Pen. You've got two types. This is the S Pen Pro, and you also have the Fold Edition. The difference between the two is that this one can perform the air actions, other Bluetooth functions, which the Fold Pen Edition cannot do. So that's definitely a caveat. And also, the S Pen needs to be in the body of the device. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have misplaced this pen. I'm ready to go out, go to work or whatever. I've got the device, but I spend like 5-10 minutes looking for the S Pen, because for me it's vital. I use the S Pen. It's a ritual. If I don't use the S Pen, then there's something wrong with me. And again, if I'm out, I want to be able to do my editing on the go. I can't do it. I challenge anyone to try and get everything on point with their finger. So for future iteration, the S Pen, it needs to be within the body of the device. Samsung, you do it right here with all your Note series and now the S22 Ultra. And again, the S Pen doesn't need to be as chunky as this. It can definitely fit inside this device. So again, that's for Samsung's research and development department to definitely look into. This needs to be within the device. And again, you have to pay extra for it. No, that should not be the case. One area that is really important to me is expandable storage, because as I mentioned, I do take a lot of videos, photos. In fact, I will film on the go, especially if the location presents itself. I want to be able to take my device out and I want to be able to film wherever I am. And sometimes that can take anything from 5, 10, 15 up to maybe 30 takes. And then when I get home, then I can go through which scenes that I want and then delete the ones that I do want. But what I really like, which is on the Note 20 Ultra, is the option for expandable storage. So I can insert a micro SD card and I can shoot videos to my heart's content. So I don't have to worry about filling up the internal storage on the device. So that's where this Note 20 Ultra for me has been a game changer. And then to see it removed on the S22 Ultra, it does grate on me somewhat. Now, when we move over to the Fold, all the Fold series, none of them have expandable storage. And you may argue, yes, there aren't any foldable devices with expandable storage, and I will accept that. But here's my counter argument. Before we had foldable phones, I'm sure Samsung, Xiaomi, all the others, they were looking into the possibility of making a mobile device. And here we are today with this third iteration, and obviously they have the fourth iteration of the foldable device when it comes to Samsung. And then you have all the other competitors as well. So the challenge should be, oh, okay, let's see if we can offer micro SD support on the foldable devices, because not everybody can afford, for example, the 512 gigabyte model or the 1 terabyte model. Give us the option to be able to use that storage as and when we see fit. And again, if you're purchasing this, you may have it for a few years because it's not a cheap device. And if you have the 256 gigabyte model, if you're someone like me that shoots videos on the go and you have plenty of retakes, because that's the reality when you're out filming, it's very rare that I do a one-shot take. It takes multitude of takes, and also sometimes I'm batch filming videos. This, I'll fill it up probably within a few months. But with the Note 20 Ultra, honestly, just having that micro SD card slot for expandable storage for me is a real winner. So at that point, obviously marks have to go to the Note 20 Ultra. Then moving on to water resistance. Thankfully, both devices have water resistant rating, so you can feel more comfortable if you're out and about, especially with the Fold series. You don't have to, well, I tell a lie, at least with the third iteration and then the fourth, you're comfortable in the knowledge that, oh, they are water resistant, and you don't have to panic if a bit of rain gets into them. So that's really good. So plus points for both. The downside with the Fold 3 is that it doesn't have dust resistant rating, whereas the Note 20 Ultra has an IP6 8 rating. Obviously the 6 is for the dust, the 8 is for the water, whereas for the Fold 3 it only has water resistant rating. There is no dust resistant rating. Now, where that can become, you know, something to think about is when you close the device, and obviously you have that gap right there. So if you take it to beach, or you're someone that works, say for example, where there's a lot of dust, maybe you're a construction worker, or you work in carpentry, anywhere where there's likely to be the potential of dust, you will have that to think about. You may have to, obviously you'll just need to nurse it better, because obviously particles can definitely get inside this device for sure. Even in a bag or a disused jacket that you've been using for years, you haven't used for a while, yeah, that can develop dust particles and go inside the device. I guess the one good thing with that is that if there's dust, hopefully it will pass through, but then the dust may collect at the edges here, and then maybe this starts to peel off. So again, just something to think about. And now you know what you can expect. You've got this Note 20 Ultra and other candy style phones. But what's really interesting is, okay, yeah, the back, that's fine, I don't worry about that, but I never worry, or we never worry about what will happen to the exposed front of the front of the device. So that's just quite interesting. It just shows you how, you know, the way we all think, we won't all the gap here, but why they will get inside and scratch the screen, but we never worry. And how many times does this go in one's bag? And I've got to admit, this is 99%, it's always in the back of my pants or trouser pocket, and I never worry about what's going to happen to the outer screen. But yeah, that's just something that I thought about before doing, you know, while I was doing my research for this video. I just thought that was quite interesting. Even myself, I'm guilty of it. Obviously, before purchasing the Fold 3, obviously did a lot of research, watched a lot of reviews, and there's all this talk about, yes, the crease and so forth. And I have to be honest, and to be absolutely honest with you, I don't even notice it. I do not notice it. Now, and here's something that I'm going to mention, which I don't think gets mentioned at all. People worried about this crease here, but you have to remember, this is a foldable device, okay? So you're going to have some sort of crease, and if you think that's an issue, let me just Microsoft Surface Duo. What about the crease on that? Well, challenge anyone to try and watch content with this, and where you've got the partition. That's what you should do. That's, you know, yes, it is different concept, it is dual screen. This is something you should be worried about, not the crease on this. I have to be honest, I never even think about the crease. So I think the point I'm making is, if you're thinking of purchasing the Fold 3, and obviously you'll see a lot of stories about, oh, the crease, this and that, and it really is, it's not an issue. I can tell you, the crease is not an issue. I thought it was going to be, but it certainly isn't. And then moving on from that, the other thing that people talk about is the under display camera on the inner screen here. Now, I've got to be honest, when I'm watching content, I don't even notice it. I do not even notice it. I really do not notice it whatsoever. So I think Samsung have done a really good job with this under display camera. I do not even notice it at all. So again, if that's something that's you're concerned about, again, I was skeptical. Maybe some of the points I've covered, you're skeptical as well. I can assure you, the crease and the under display camera, those two things, you know what, I don't even bother. And as I mentioned, if you're really that bothered, well, try watching something on this, with this partition in the middle on these Microsoft Surface Duo. You'll be happy to watch something on this. And I think the overall point here is that both the Note 20 Ultra and the Fold 3, they both have fantastic screens. I cannot fault them at all. It is beautiful. And again, this is lovely, but in terms of the screen, yeah, the Fold 3 wins it hands down. Seriously, I cannot tell you that this is better than that. No way, it is not. It's a joy when I do my editing on this. For all the other issues and points that reservations I have with this device, my goodness, this screen, I cannot fault it at all. There are a few other points that I forgot to mention that I want to highlight. Obviously, one of them is typing experience on the device. Here, as you can see on the Fold 3, on the outer screen, it is really narrow, and I don't have fat fingers, but I'm finding it really difficult, and I do make a lot of mistakes on it. And again, if one was allowed to use the S Pen, that would make things easier. But definitely the outer screen needs to be wider, very much like the Note 20 Ultra, the Candy style phone. And as you can see, the buttons will be easier to operate when the device is closed. And again, just to rubber stamp my point, you may argue, yeah, well, this is not a folding device. But as I said, other competitors, Xiaomi, Vivo, whatever, when you close it like this, you can use the outer screen. And then, just to rubber stamp what I'm saying, this again is the Microsoft Surface Duo, and just look at that. Look at the keyboard on that. It is fantastic. And again, I'm not suggesting that Samsung should go for this width. Even if they went 2/3 of the way here, it will make it a better typing experience on the outer screen. When it comes to viewing experience, I have to say the Note 20 Ultra wins hands down. Again, further argument why the Fold 3 outer display needs to be wider, because even in this 25:9 aspect ratio, it just feels odd. And even on the latest version, the Fold 4, I think it's 23:9 aspect ratio, even it's still too narrow. This is the bar that Samsung should be aiming at for the foldable device, especially for the 5th iteration. Again, I'll labor the point. They've tried it on 4 iterations, and the common denominator is that it is still too narrow. So for the 5th iteration, Samsung definitely need to widen the outer screen, and it can be done because all your competitors are doing it. Even if you try to open it up like this, expand it like that, it's still a better viewing experience on the Note 20 Ultra. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just play the 2 clips. And just before I play the 2 clips, some of you may be wondering, well, yes, it is narrow, but you can always, that's why you have the inner display. And my counter argument to that is, that's great. Believe me, I use this device regularly. So in terms of practicality, I know how it works. There are times where you're in a public space and 99% of the people that I see use the Candy Star phone like this, and I do as well, so nothing against them whatsoever. And I have to be honest, I do not want to open this out and showcase to the world that, hey, oh, I don't want to draw attention to myself. Hey, he has a foldable phone, blah, blah. No, I want to be very discreet. If the fold outer screen was like this, there'll be no issues. I can just use this. The person sitting next to me or around me would be none the wiser. And again, to give you another analogy, I may be wearing an expensive top or a pair of chinos or pants, trousers. But do I need to get the label out for everyone to see that, oh, by the way, it's a Gucci or it's a Armani, it's Polo Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, etc.? Absolutely not. So I will label that point because I think it's really important. In terms of practicalities, I don't want to have to open it. I want to keep it closed like this and still watch or do anything I want on the outer screen. But definitely the outer screen, point is it needs to be wider. Okay, so let's play the 2 clips so you can see what they're like. Might just be a second or two. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so you can see, yeah, much better on the Note 20 Ultra. Really like it. Really, yeah. But this is, for me, just, it doesn't make the experience that great. And the other thing I want to highlight whilst we're here is that with the Note 20 Ultra, you can shoot in video up to 8K, I believe at 24 frames per second. But with the Fold 3, you cannot shoot in 8K. But with the Fold 4, you can shoot in 8K. And here's where the dilemma is. Because you do not have expandable storage on the Fold 3, it means that if you shoot your videos in 8K, people may not realize, but those 8K files, they are large files. So they will eat up your internal storage of your device faster than you can blink. So that's something to really keep in mind. And also, not everybody can afford, for example, the 512 gigabytes or the 1 terabyte option on these devices. Maybe a lot of people can only just about afford the 256 gigabyte. But because there's no expandable storage, they may not be able to shoot in 8K. So you might have 8K on the Fold 4, but your hands are kind of tied behind your back because you don't have the expandable storage option. Whereas with the with the Note 20 Ultra, I have the expandable storage, so I can record in 4K to my heart's content. And again, that's another reason why I haven't upgraded to the S22 Ultra, because you can shoot in 8K, but you do not have the expandable storage. Following on from my last point about the lack of expandable storage on the Fold series, including the Fold 3 here. So what it does mean is that you have to depend a lot on your internal storage. So for example, I have the 512 gigabyte model here. I tap on the storage there, so you see the 512 gigabyte model, and the system already takes up 50 gigabytes. And if we deduct that from 512, so you're probably looking at what, about 460 gigabytes of internal storage. And if you're filming anything in 8K, that 460 odd gigabytes will be swallowed up. Break that down further. If you've got the 256 gigabyte model, and if you take away, let's assume it is 50 gigabytes of the system storage, you're going to be left with what, just shy of what, 200 gigabytes. And this is something that not only Samsung are guilty of, but all phone manufacturers are guilty of. So again, that's something to factor in if you're thinking of purchasing a foldable device or any other device without any expandable storage. Obviously, the way to counter that is to have cloud storage. But for someone like myself, I don't want the cloud storage. I want to be able to, like with my Note 20 Ultra, I just want to be able to, again, film, download as much stuff as I can, knowing that I've got that expandable storage to rely on. And I think, again, this is where the Note 20 Ultra wins. And again, furthering my argument that you should be able to have expandable storage on these Samsung Galaxy Fold series, because as I've just mentioned, you don't get the advertised gigabyte of internal storage. It's always less, and that's quite naughty. What I would like, for example, is for Samsung in this case to say, right, what we'll do is we will give you that 512, but what we do is we'll add the 50 on top. So it's what? 560, and then I know that with the internal storage I'm getting the 512, and that, I believe, is the way to go. When it comes to handling these devices on a daily basis, there are a few things you do need to take note of. So for example, with the Note 20 Ultra, it is really comfortable to hold, even though it has a 6.9-inch screen, and with the slim design, it makes it very comfortable to hold. No issues there. Now, if you're coming from a slab device onto a foldable series like this, a couple of things you need to take notice of. Obviously, one of them, just put my password in on screen, is once you decide to, or if you decide to have a case on it, it will be quite an experience. I say that because, for example, I have this case on, and I find that because obviously I'm aware I've got an expensive device. Even if this wasn't an expensive device, it's a foldable phone. Last thing I want to do is drop it, so I'm going to clench it quite tightly, and I feel my muscle spasms working overtime. Now, as I mentioned earlier, yes, with the S Pen being separate, and yes, you can counter that and say, well, you can just have this slot here for the S Pen and there'll be no issue. But as I just mentioned there, holding it, I find that uncomfortable. But so what I do is I remove this part here, and this would be good. If you're someone that doesn't use the S Pen, this would be ideal, and this is much more comfortable to hold for sure. No issues there whatsoever. So the point I was going to make is that if I have this back on here, and yes, insert the S Pen in here, then I can always carry it around with me. And as I mentioned, yes, it's really uncomfortable to hold. Then the other issue that I have is that this slot here is only applicable if you have the S Pen Fold Edition. Now I have the S Pen Pro, and so you can see it does not fit in there at all. So I'm always going to have to carry it separately. which again is a pain, and you're prone to misplacing it or losing it and so forth. So again, that's something you will need to think about if you're going to purchase a foldable, either any of the Fold series. Yes, especially if you rock it with a case, it does make it bulky and a little bit cumbersome. So again, for me, top marks has to go to the Note 20 Ultra, because this is so nice. Even when I rock this with a very very thin transparent case, it is so much more comfortable, and in fact it's actually a delight to hold than the Fold itself. Well, those were my thoughts on the two devices, and I hope it gave you food for thought, especially if you are thinking of purchasing a foldable device. It was a tough decision because both devices are really good, but I have chosen the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra as my daily driver for the reasons highlighted. As for the Fold 3, it is a passenger, meaning I use it as a secondary device. Once these shortcomings have been ironed out, then and only then can Samsung claim the title as the best foldable phone. But right now, I would say it is the most popular foldable phone. Also, if the shortcomings I have highlighted on the Fold 3 appear in future iterations, then I can see the Fold being my daily driver. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. My name is Shola. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another episode. Peace.